Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our final La Hora for the year 2023. My name is Cynthia Lawson Jaramillo. I'm the director of the Parsons Deed Research Lab that has been focused since 2007 on researching, critiquing, understanding, learning about all things artisan sector. Our goal is to get to a sector that is more artisan-centric and that does not rely on exploitative models, which we have recently been studying as new forms of colonization. So thank you all for joining today. In today's La Hora, we don't have a particular special guest, but this is an open space for everyone to share. And so the way I facilitate this particular open session is I will go around and call on you, and you can share with us if you've brought a thing to today's space. And the thing may be a particular area of interest that relates to crafts, craftspeople, artisan sector, design, social impact, etc. It could be so it could be a question, it could be work in progress. You want to share something with us on which you want feedback. You're looking for resources on a particular question or project that you're working on, or perhaps you're here to simply listen, which is also totally fine. It's nice to see familiar faces and also newcomers. And I'm also joined by Valentina Palacios Velásquez, who's a design researcher in the Deed Lab. So thank you, Valentina, always for accompanying me here in these horas. So I'll go around in the order in which I see the tiles. I will take notes. Just for now, when I call on you briefly, for a minute or two, let us know if you brought a thing to today's space. And then once we hear from everyone, then I'll call on particular people to expand on the thing. And often we have found that there are connections between what brings different people to this space together. Maybe because there are so many new names also today, you could share where you're joining us from and or how you learned about today's event. So Farzana, you're first in my tiles here.
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm not here particularly for, with any agenda as of today, but I was just I have this general inquiry around this area of working with the focus of location and community in the context of fashion practices. And that has kind of become central to my capstone at this moment. So I'm looking here specifically in New York City, what is being done with the focus of location and community. And then I'm trying to create kind of a framework that then can be applied to any location or community. That's the future goal. So if anybody could give me resources or ideas or thoughts around this, I would be really grateful.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining. Shaumika Sharma, you're next on my tiles. Any particular question or area of interest?
Hi everyone. My name is Shamika. I'm a professor at Parsons. I teach interior design studio, and I don't have anything very specific to share today, but I am working on a project in India, which is an architecture project for specifically for textile weavers, handloom weavers, and I'm working with an NGO. But mainly I'm here to listen because that work is in progress, and I'm going to be going to India later this year to kind of pick up where I left off pre-COVID.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. That sounds great.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Bilal Yilmaz, did you bring a thing to today's space?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
It's me again. I'm Lydia, and this is Bilal. He is an artist, and I'm a curator. We're based in Istanbul and in Thessaloniki. And we have been developing together a platform that explores the potential of craft as a contemporary artistic practice. inspired a lot of Bilal's work and other artists' works. And soon we will launch a mapping application that is custom made, and it allows people to become researchers to map their own crafts, their own craft environment in their own city, as a way to explore the potential of crafts in contemporary artistic production.
I'm also leaving some links on the chat box. This is the first project that we realized. It's about the mapping craft culture of the city, and it's the Istanbul first craft map. Then through in time, with a lot of international interest from the academic and to the artistic world, we realized the potential of the mapping to the craft culture of different cities through involvement of the different creative actors. And now together with Lydia, as she said, that we are developing an international platform that will give chance for a lot of individual creatives to contribute a collective cultural data by mapping to the craft culture of different cities. And I'm gonna leave another link, that's my website, so you can see a lot of contemporary pieces that we produced together as a output of this fruitful collaboration between craftsmen and me.
How exciting. Thank you so much. If I may, I'd love to be in touch and invite you perhaps to present at a future hora where we could, for an hour, hear more about your work. For now, I'll move ahead, but I think there'll be time for us to hear more. Clearly, you see some reactions in the chat. There's great enthusiasm. So thank you for being here and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Valentina, did you bring a thing?
I didn't bring a thing today. I'm excited to learn and hear from the rest of the people in the chat who join us. So yeah, here to listen.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Manasi Sambus.
Hi. This is my first ever Laura session. I have never joined this session before, but I'm a SDM student, first semester, and I have worked with the crafts and artisan people in my undergrads project, and very interested in this field. So I don't have any certain question or area in mind as such, but just here to listen to other people.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Carmen, hi.
Hi there. I didn't bring anything today, but actually I'm going to stay for a while because I have an appointment, but lovely to hear from you and your projects. I'm an anthropologist from Mexico.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for being here. And Shreya, did you bring a thing today?
Hi, no, I don't have a thing, but I am generally interested in craft, which is why I'm here, and I'm specifically working on a small-scale craft revival of jewelry making, in sync with Tibetan identity building. That's my project right now.
That sounds really exciting. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I didn't bring a particular thing. Happy to facilitate and always delighted to meet new people and hear updates on work that others might be doing. Divija Diwan, you just joined, and I'm going to put you on the spot before I move forward. Did you bring a particular thing to today's space? Any particular questions that you brought with you, things you wanted to learn or share, or projects that you're working on that you want to share with us?
Hi, so there's no particular thing I bring into. I just saw I go to the new school and I saw it up there. So I just thought of joining in to see what people share and to learn. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you for joining. What program are you in at the new school?
I'm in the BFA Design and Technology program.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. There are a couple of other students on the call and alumni, so as well as external practitioners. So thank you for being here. Great. So the two big things perhaps that we have in the space today both relate to localizing craft and work and making and design. So Farzan, I hear some interesting connections between what you're hoping to explore and what Lydia and Bilal are working on in terms of mapping craft to their own cities. So Farzana, do you want to share a bit more about where you might be in your research and what particular questions might we be able to support your work?
Yes, thank you so much, Cynthia. I didn't introduce myself, sorry. I am here at the Parsons School of Design at the MS SDM Strategic Design and Management program. I'm in the second year. I'll be graduating next spring semester. So for my capstone project, I have been investigating in the area of the localization and community-based practices. My specific interest being in the space for fashion because I have been working in fashion and specifically with a focus of artisanal craftsmanship in the slower movement of fashion. Also, what intrigued me in this space is to slow down fashion, the kind of, the desk research, and with my primary research also, I spoke to a lot of program leaders within the Fashion School of Fashion and the School of Design. And this I'm also working as a teaching assistant this semester, and hopefully will be teaching two sections for the fashion studies program next semester. So I get a lot to talk about in the class with my students and the kind of things they're learning. So the kind of insights I got so far in this research space is that the students for fashion need kind of a holistic idea, like a systemic idea about the space of fashion, because fashion has moved into such a wicked space that the problems are very interconnected and multi-level. We can only not look at it from the material or labor practice or individual or isolated things like that. It's very multifaceted. So for students to be able to work with a goal of working maybe in a sustainable way, it's a very wide term to use, sustainability, but I'm kind of looking at it from the point of view of what can be done locally, how to work close to home, and also with the idea behind it being the promotion of local traditions, techniques, materiality, and all of that. So with that, since I'm here in New York City, I'm trying to map out what's available here, what kind of organizations are like working in the area of promoting this kind of practices, who are the designers who are working in this space. And also, I'm also looking into this space for, the global supply chain of craft within the fashion practice, because that is also quite an emergent space. Because unless we bring craft into the mainstream, which of course has its own problems and limitations, and we need to be careful about it. But then if we don't practice craft as a main way of use and as our day-to-day things, it might just become like the thing of the past, or be the thing for the museums. So how to do that practice, and also in the context of location and community engagement and the cultural side of looking into things. So this is what kind of brought me into this space, and I'm kind of looking to develop any co-curricular activities or how this kind of inputs can be integrated within the academic experience of a student. Since I'm working in the School of Fashion, I'm trying to work within that space, but this can be, of course, used by any academic setting. So yeah, that's where I am with my research.
Wow, really exciting. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I welcome anyone, if you have resources, suggestions, questions for Farzana, please share them. A couple of things I can share is Nest's initiative called Makers United. So
Yeah.
Nest, for others as well, is a renowned organization based in the US, has focused on the artisan sector, expanded mission to think about craft, think about hand making, and in recent years have learned and acknowledged that much of what we consider as part of the fashion supply chain is actually being made by craftspeople or by artisans. So they could be an interesting there could be a set of initiatives there to understand. But the Makers United initiative is focused within the US, and it's individual based. So, if you click through that, you'll see that they select people to then lift or support or mentor in ways. But the framing of it, I would say, is part of a movement that I'm hearing about in fashion design of trying to bring back manufacturing to the US. So I'm thinking about Ibarra Wadud's Lula brand. So Ibarra is a colleague here at Parsons and an affiliated researcher of the Deed Lab. And I don't know that she's actively working on Lula, but you could certainly reach out to her.
I'm taking her class next semester. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So with Lula, Ibarra wanted to not only design a handbag, but also wanted to establish factories in which formerly incarcerated women could be employed, that could then be used by other brands and other designers looking to produce or make things. A few years ago, I had a meeting here at Parsons with a group from Detroit, where they were trying to do something similar, revive Detroit as a place for fashion design and fashion industry. And then within New York City, I would say the business improvement district of the fashion district is the one that I think about in terms of localized initiatives of really thinking about the role of fashion in the city of New York. Factories ebbing and flowing, closing, opening, and now what we have are, I would say, luxury market oriented designers who still produce locally. But yeah, really excited about the direction that you're taking. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for all the information.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments for Farzana? Okay. Well, perhaps then we'll shift to Lydia and Bilal, if you wanted to share a bit more about what you had started to share, because I think there are interesting connections with what Farzana is talking about. I'm curious about how your project started, or where are you now? How do we connect with you? What are you looking for in terms of audiences or collaborations or venues? Or you want to share more?
We are now in Istanbul, and the project started in 2012. My background is computer science and information system engineering, and I study in Istanbul, then in New York, Binghamton University. And while I was in New York, I decided to shape my life through the crafts, through the lectures that I took from the design and the sculptures. Then I started a master degree on product design in Istanbul, and I realized the potential of the crafts. Actually, what I realized that how crafts are forced to go underground and disappear. And then I decided to the first idea was, I was almost sure that one of the governmental institutions should have the data of all these craft studios. And through the background of the computer science, I just thought I'm gonna get this data and just gonna transform, just visualize it through a digital website. And the first intention was just to help the craftsmen to reach some more visibility. Not only to helping the craftsmen to reach the visibility, also helping the people like me, the creative young generation, giving them chance to be able to find the craftsmen who are really deeply hidden in the city context. But then I realized that none of the institutions, private or the public, they don't keep really records of the craft studios. Then I decided to do it by myself, visit these craft studios one by one, creating an Excel file, convincing the friends to take pictures of them, then another two friends to build this website. Then this Crafted in Istanbul website came out. Then it is invited to second Istanbul Design Biennale, and we made some projects, utopic projects that doesn't carry any traditional detail in the form, to show the generations that craftsmen still have potential for new aesthetic and functional forms and designs. Then I made a shadow box, and it was selected for Istanbul Contemporary Art Biennale as an example to show that the contemporary potential of the crafts and how meaningful new ways of collaboration can happen. Then I continue to focus on the potential of the crafts on the production of the creative sector. Because I have the background of the both design and the contemporary art, and it continued to be really useful and fruitful for me. Then in 2018, we first time collaborate together with Lydia, and we made a city stage, a new form of the stage that transformed any public space to a stage for performance arts. She was curating the project, and I was the expert designer. And we made it in a participatory design methodology, together involvement of more than 9 academicians and 50 participants. And first time we produced this idea with involvement of 8 different masters, craftsmen, 4 from Istanbul and 4 from Thessaloniki in Greece. And then we decided with Lydia to work much more deeply about this subject. And in 2020, we mapped the craft culture in Ayvalık. It is another small city. It is a small city in the Mediterranean coast of the Turkey. And together with this project, first time these craft researchers jumped from Istanbul to another city. Then we start to discover actually the potential of the crafts in the context of the other cities. And in the meantime, Crafted in Istanbul so far already become a subject for more than 15 academic researchers, both national and international. And this gives us chance to make some comparative studies about the potential of the crafts in different contexts and countries and to the cities. And at the same time, we also understand the need to map to the craft culture through the participation of the creatives, involvement of them, the individuals in this research process, because the research by itself giving a lot of chance potential, create the potential for the creatives to collaborate with the craft people. Because when you find a way to move these creative minds to those studios, then you trigger their creativity to work with those materials and techniques. So,
and also, sorry,
yeah,
to develop concepts, because what we are working against, in a sense, is the romanticization of crafts, that everybody has this idea of the craftsman working in a dark studio, toiling away every day. And it is not like that at all. There are differences in the different countries, and of course, between West and East and South and the North and all that. And this, of course, leads a lot to Western perspective that kind of romanticizes and exoticizes, and then takes advantage of all the crafted aesthetics. A lot of companies, as he said, a lot of fashion brands, they are using very highly skilled craftsmen, artisans that are based in developing countries, and take advantage at the end of not only their abilities, but they appropriate the images in a kind of colonizing way. So one thing is this romanticization and exotization, and the other thing is that crafts have always been perceived in opposition to other things, that no, industrial production is better than crafted production, better quality, more long-lasting, whatever. Craft is lower in compared to fine arts. So there is always, we don't look at, because they are everywhere in a way, they are in the daily practices, they are a profession, they are, there has always also been this DIY and maker movement in the past years that has getting us back to crafts. It is everywhere and nowhere in a way. So our perspective of it is kind of taking away a lot of the potential that it has for production right now, for sustainability, not only environmental, but also cultural, social sustainability. And it is quite hard to, I think, to change this perspective that we have, especially in the contemporary art world, because we like to think that we are better than crafts, that crafts lack all this conceptual element of contemporary art. But for contemporary artists, when they come in contact and they meet craftsmen, at the end, the craftsmen are a very valuable source, not only of technical knowledge and material knowledge, but also of stories of the city, because they have been connected to where their studios are, where they are located in the neighborhoods, especially in, I think, southern and eastern countries. They have been, there is a lot of stories that come from the masters where, from whom the craftsmen have learned. So there is a lot of knowledge and oral history there that is valuable to develop concepts only, not only techniques.
So shortly, we perceive the crafts.
Shortly, there is no shortly.
It's good. This is really exciting. So many things are inspiring about what you're saying. In the Deed Lab, we're also concerned about this, the romanticization of what become exploitative models, new colonizing models of how designers and entrepreneurs and others have decided they're going to be the ones to save the artisans from poverty. And I so appreciate also the lifting of craft as fine art. And I'm reminded, Valentina, when you were doing the fieldwork research for a case study in Colombia, one of the craftspeople said to you that they much preferred referring to themselves as an artist and not as a craftsperson. And there is so much artistry. And then the other thing that really is inspiring about what you're describing is in the Deed Lab, we've been very concerned about the majority of support models that exist for the artisan sector don't lift the artisan's creativity, don't give them creative power, don't give them the ability to make decisions about the form, the colors, the materials, the quality of what it is that they're making. And instead they're tasked to create things that somebody else has decided is needed. So it's a very transactional relationship. Valentina shared in the chat Artesanías de Colombia, and Colombia is an organization lifting craft there, and I shared also in the UK Crafts Council. And Shamika just shared the Low Craft Prize conversations are interesting with regards to fine art and craft. Oh, I don't know about that, so thank you for sharing. I'm also going to put in the chat, a year ago, November last year, we had in La Hora a Colombian Spanish artist, Maria Camila Sanginés, who is one of such fine artists that has worked with craftspeople or in craft communities. And we talked about also the ethics of that. How does she as an artist engage in those collaborations and not simply extract for her own artist resume and her own exhibition history, but to have these meaningful exchanges. I'm curious, you said that that the craft, when Bilal, when you were sharing how this all started, you said that it was that the craft felt a need to go underground. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. And then I wanted to connect it with Farzana's question about localization, and wondering if you have also, if we think about the counters of what you're modeling, is also resisting the global, the moves towards globalization and export and import and trade, and we have to sell in markets that are far from the craftspeople because that's where people will pay more money. Wondering if that has been an intentional part of what you're doing.
Sure. I mean, at the beginning, we were just thinking that why these craft studios are so hidden was the reason is an economic reason, because they weren't earning enough money. So they were choosing really the dark, underground, bad condition, cheap studios. But in time, what we realized that there are a lot of also city policies that aren't supporting the existence or continuation of the crafts at all. In different periods, in the context of the Istanbul, then we realize other cities in Turkey also, they were many times forced to go to industrial production areas because they are making a production. So then this mapping became a tool for us also to advocate to keep the production in our residential urban city context. Because as a creative person, I can't imagine a city without a production. In our daily life, if production is away from our daily life, then then we are turning to the urban animals based on just consuming through the marketing policies. How are we going to produce, or how are we going to face with the possibilities of production? Then where is the labor? So actually the system is through this urban city context and through new city plans that's only made for consumption and touristic consumption. We are constantly losing the production spaces and possibilities in the city centers. So many times the municipalities and the local authorities try to force all these studios to outside of the city center to the industrial areas, but in industrial area they don't have any chance to survive because of the prices, because they are losing their hundreds years of clustered relations. Because in countries like us, Turkey, which has a very strong and deep craft culture, we have still cluster models. In clustered models, there are craftsmen supporting each other's production through their production methods and material methods. So in these cluster models are very meaningful for a creative person, because you go inside of a cluster craft system with an idea, then you come out with a product directly. You don't really need to go from between big distances. So these small distance spaces also works like a university, because you go there without knowing anything, and by asking, everybody is sharing their opinion very clearly to you, and it gives you to develop these ideas very fastly. You don't really need to lose hours in front of computer to make the research. It's a hands-on ways of learning new methods and ways to realize the dream, what you are dreaming, what you are planning actually. So the pressure of the cities is one thing. The other thing, the industrialization. In the developing countries, as industrialization bring more money, and it is the system that the Western investors suggest and force the countries to invest more. The industrialization is also sucking all the energy and killing all the potential possibility of the craft. And in time, we are losing through these labor rights also the recognition of the crafting system. The recent studies, what shows our recent studies, because we might be the only source who can really analyze everything through mapping and involvement of hundreds of the craftsmen, because there isn't another institution who really care them. More than 96% of the studios don't have apprentice. And this new type, this apprentice school, what was the name of the school model? Endüstri meslek, the vocation?
Like a vocational education model, like they have in Germany or in Switzerland.
This vocational education model, we brought it around 1970s from Germany. And that system already collapsed. So there isn't new generation craftsmen coming in the system. And so there is a new generation, young generation. This is for me, I mean, as an individual creative, I realize that there are a lot of information. What we call in academy is a tacit knowledge that you can learn only by watching and practicing. So we cannot really book this craft knowledge to a book. So we are losing every day all these valuable craft knowledge. And for me, the only way to keep it and to learn more about crafts and to continue producing is to sharing this wish with more creative people and finding ways to force the authorities and the system to create craft policies. And to be able to make it, we need numbers, we need physical data, we need participation, involvement of more actors, and to show, without romanticizing, the future creative potentials of the crafts. So through all these ideas, we are trying to build creative networks and communities around crafts. And thanks to the first project that we made it both Turkish and the English, I realized that there are a lot of interaction with the other countries and the other academics or the researchers or the artists who are working on the crafts. It inspires us a lot, and they also realize how creatively we are bringing this, using this technology about mapping to the craft culture, and they need also us. So we decided to create a platform that anybody who works on crafts can put their research into the data there, and others can use it, a kind of open source system for the people to focus on craft more. Because what we also realize in time, especially in culture and the academic sector, we are not giving that much reference to each other's work, and again we are using the same funds to do the same thing and to the same mistakes again and again. Then actually this is a common need for many subjects, not only crafts. So if there is some common platforms that people can at least check what happened or what was realized in that country or in that context before, so we could use all these funds and the policies much more meaningfully.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, it sounds like you're open to this being a platform that others can adapt to their locations. And I guess I wanted to talk a little bit, and I'm dominating this conversation, but open to questions or comments from anyone else here. Feel free to raise your hand or just type it in the chat and I'll call on you. The issue of there is no generation that is kind of next in line to continue the craft is absolutely something, you know, in our interviews with indigenous artisans, especially in Latin America, they have said to us, we don't want our children to continue our artisan work because we associate being an artisan with having a hard life, impoverished, socially marginalized. And they have hopes and dreams of children finishing school and getting what we call in the US white collar jobs and offices as administrators. But I'm wondering, so yeah, I was asking Shri in the chat if in her craft revival project, is she also seeing that issue of no next generation? And Shriya wrote, yes, and actually this idea I'm working on seems very overlooked. Jewelry making is often intensive and extractive, but as a result of moving, Tibetans have lost access to design of their accessories. And I'll call on Farzana, and then I'd be curious to hear you also share with us how you're defining crafts person in terms of, do they need to come from a lineage or a cultural heritage of craft? Or are you also looking, the vocational model introduces this idea that anyone can, it's like a new craft movement, and wondering what happens with traditional or historical cultural heritage when we're now, let's say, training people to take that on. But
should we answer now or first?
We'll leave that, and I'll go to Farzana and then Shamika, and then we'll go back. Farzana.
Yeah, thank you. I kind of was thinking in the similar line as your question, is that the apprenticeship model that Bilal and Lydia are talking about, because with the new generations who are coming into the space, and you know, it might be a gross generalization, but the data says that, you know, millennials have like 10 seconds of attention span, and Gen Z has 12. So an average of, you know, 8 and 12, average of 10. So with this kind of information, people who are actually interested to get into the traditional craftsmanship space, so then can that be like something that, again, you know, echoing to what Cynthia was saying, that should be like a global thing, whoever is interested to come and participate in a traditional craft? Or what kind of a model would you say, you know, I'm kind of trying to think out loud and, you know, open for discussion kind of a thing, that how do we take this forward in this case? Because we know that some of the traditional craft practices are very communal and very central to their own cultural practice, location, and all this. But then because of technology, everybody's aware of many things that are going around in a global context, and people who are interested genuinely, should then they be able to participate in this kind of you know, cross-cultural and cross-country practices? What are your thoughts on that?
Let's gather all the questions and comments, and then Shamika.
Yeah, so this idea of losing the younger generation is really, I mean, it's you know, it's kind of present in a lot of places. So through the research I did in a few different craft clusters in India, I definitely came across a lot of craftspeople saying to me that, you know, and one of the main reasons really that I kept hearing was it had to do with income. So a lot of craftspeople saying that, you know, that I want my kids to go to university and have an education, and then like go into something that is more lucrative, and they, you know, they can earn a bit better. But I think in India it's not as extreme yet, at least from my understanding, because there are still quite a number of organizations trying to kind of promote and sustain crafts. But I just wanted to share this story because it was quite touching. And in the Indian context, a lot of crafts were, especially textile crafts, were passed down, through the male lineage. So textile craft would be passed down from father to son. And in the last few decades, there have been a lot of different initiatives trying to bring more women into crafts and using that as a kind of form of employment and income. And I met this one weaver in Kutch, and he's actually a traditional weaver. It was, he's maybe going back several hundred years. And he had sent his daughter to college. He wanted her to have an education. He had enough to send her to college. But she actually came back to the village to learn weaving. So it was quite a touching story. And I liked the way that he had also changed his mind about, passing it. He wanted to pass it down to his daughter. He wasn't thinking in terms of, that she has to be male to learn this traditional knowledge. But at the same time, he was concerned about her higher education. And they kind of found a balance where she has this degree and she can potentially earn money through that, but she also wants to learn weaving and become good at that at the same time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it sounds like he gave the daughter the privilege of choice, which is not, which most people on the planet don't necessarily have, and certainly craftspeople don't. So yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Valentina?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think the platform has a lot of potential. And one of the things that I'm seeing, and I don't know if like this, you have think like this is possible, but like I see it as almost like opening like what Google Maps opened the possibility to restaurants, just to find restaurants every time that you are traveling, like you just go and do it. So it can resolve the income problem that a lot of artisans are experiencing, because all of a sudden like you just don't need to like just go into so many different circles to find who is the artisan of that specific craft. And I think the way the platform is built right now is like very simple, but like very useful. So yeah, I'm like very excited to see how you guys can bring the solution for other cities and expand the solution for other cities. One of the things that I shared on the chat was from Artesanías de Colombia, but like it was particularly a link that goes to a directory that Artesanías de Colombia has, where they share artisans from different places. Like it's like a PDF, and like they have a map. But it's not built the way you guys build it, and it doesn't encompass all artisans from Colombia, but it can be even a starting point and like maybe a connection that you can explore if you want to expand in South America and like other places. I also have seen a couple of other companies in other industries. There is a collective for independent brands in Colombia that is called Vístete Colombia. I can share the link in the chat as well, but they did something similar, but not in a map. They did it just by collecting and categorizing by category of products, but it was with a similar intention of just sharing the people, sharing the work that the people were doing in different areas and expanding their voices, so like their work can be more easily accessible to others.
Thank you, Valentina. So we just have about 5 minutes left. Lydia and Bilal, did you want to respond to any of the questions or comments?
For the future of the crafts, yeah, this is a big question. But at pandemic, we had a lot of time to observe and to watch things, and we weren't sure really are we also romanticizing the craft? We are asking this question constantly to ourselves, to be really trying to sure that not to be romantic about, because we cannot really suggest a policy about a romantic issue. And for the crafts, last year I was also giving a lecture in the architecture department of Bilgi University and transform my research methodology to a lecture. And I was working with the students. First, I wasn't sure really the interest of the students to the crafts. So the first lectures and the first research project, they were really complaining a lot. But after they start to visit these craftsmen, and when they understand that their contribution can be used later by the others, they really enjoyed that, and they went to do research the whole semester again and again. And then they started to ask me to give some projects to realize and work and collaborate with the craftsmen. So a lot of new generation, they have a lot of interest to the crafts. And when we check also YouTube views, the people who are practicing the crafts and the taking video and the sharing it, they have a lot of hits. And still, it shows that the lot of new generation, young generation, and the people in the world, they are showing a lot of interest to the crafts. And what we also claim when we check the development of the craft in different contexts, for example, we made this pilot research in North Macedonia last year. We were invited to an artist residency program, and we made a participatory craft research and created a craft map of Skopje, then in Thessaloniki, and next summer we are going to Slovakia. So that shows that a clear transformation of the crafts. What we are trying to do is mapping the traditional crafts, and the next step that we would like to do is mapping the neo-crafts. What's the difference? The traditional crafts and the neo-crafts. The neo-crafts are the traditional, first of all, the traditional craftsmen are the craftspeople who learn from master to apprentice relationship by doing in a very early age, starting and working with the natural materials with traditional handcraft techniques. In neo-crafts, these new production methods attached to the craft system, like the 3D printing, CNC, but at the same time using the hand tools, and not necessarily learning from a master. There are a lot of millions of people learning crafts from YouTube also, or different platforms, and practicing by themselves for many hours in their home or small studios. And the main idea of mapping through participation is letting the new generation to experience the craft and contributing in creation of a collective craft data, and at the same time having a chance this know-how to pass to next generation through a research method. And if we can successfully continue the transformation of the crafts, we can pass all this know-how as much as we can to the next generation. Otherwise, the need to the humanity to craft will never going to disappear, but we are going to lose a lot of time to discover the methods that were already established again and again as humanity. Because we know in the history, in ancient history period, we cannot produce a lot of things again in this technology because we lost those craft techniques.
And now sometimes we have to rediscover, to imagine how they were, do tests and...
Yes, knowing it and they repeating the same techniques is a really meaningful methodology also in archaeology. But
yes,
what we claim is that we shouldn't lose this know-how and find new ways of the passing it to the next generation and help to the creation of neocrafts.
Yes, and what Shreya wrote in the chat, but I see in India a lot of challenges due to globalization and tech. Cheaper costs and newer ideas are better for shopping. Craft is becoming a more high art / museum artifact. And it connects back to where we started, Laura, with Farzana thinking about local and slow and new possibilities for, you know, what I would describe as more sustainable futures. Lydia, you were about to say something, and then we'll
just to finish what Bilal was saying, that every locality has different conditions, different circumstances. So this is why it is important for locals to explore. And depending on the locality, the criteria might vary. What we are focusing on is craftsmen, and usually they are men, who have been taught by this master to apprentice model, and who are doing crafts as a professional activity. We know that we are leaving out a lot of home crafts, women crafts, but this is because, as I said, craft is so broad, we cannot research everything at the same time. This is what we're starting from. And hopefully, if we can establish it further, then we can open up, or different localities might set different criteria for the research, what is more relevant for their own environment.
Yeah.
Yes, we cannot disregard neocrafts. They are very important and valuable, but they don't carry all this like long tradition. This will be gradually. So we win some, we lose some in some cases.
There's a different value, and
yes,
you know, Shalmika adding into the chat about luxury market. So what is truly slow and truly sustainable and truly handmade ends up being only affordable by a very few amount of people, which is counter to how craft started and how craftspeople used to make for themselves and their communities. This has been fascinating. Laura always flies by. I so appreciate everyone who showed up here. This was really such an exciting conversation. I loved learning about your initiative, Lydia and Bilal. And if there's any way that we can partner, continue to give a platform for you to share your work, don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to stay connected, and look forward to seeing you all. We're going to take a break in January, and we'll be back on February 7th, with the next Laura for next year. And until then, I wish you all a safe couple of months, and peace wherever you may be.